Hello, my name is Bill Haley, and this is for Haley2024 The Movement's Government Reform Ideas. Now, this video is going to be on the financial sector and concentrating on just the examples of banking and how we do competitive money. So let's go through it really quickly what the whole Constitution is. I'm going to do this in less than 1 minute, and then I'm going to go into examples. I just did one just on clauses. It's about a 30-minute video just dealing with constitutional clauses, dealing with how do you create competitive money. Now this video is going to be strictly on creating, the examples of competitive money and how it works. So the first thing you have to understand is in the new Constitution I'm proposing is that all government power is split into 30 sectors with a distinct elected leader per sector. One of those sectors is going to deal with just banking and creating currency. That's sector 19 here. Within each sector, so let's talk about just banking. You select your competitive regulatory agency, and then they regulate you. Every bank picks their competitive banking regulatory agency. So the bank picks their regulatory agency and then regulates the banks underneath them. If they do everything in favor of the bank, customers aren't going to want to go to them. They're not going to get the business. On the other hand, if the competitive regulatory agency puts everything on the favor of the customer, and the bank can't make any money because they're getting messed up the whole time, then they're not going to make money. It's going to force a middle ground. So let's talk about currency for a minute. Each CRA has to create its own currency. So it's going to be roughly 10 to 12 currencies per state, and within my new Constitution, it's going to be between 100 and 200 states. So I'm going to just stay with 1,000 currencies throughout the country, 10 per state times 100 states, just to make the numbers a bit easier for me. It might get up to 2,000, maybe even 3,000 currencies, depending on how things go. It has a chance to get in a little bit more than that, but it might only be 500 currencies, but let's just say between 1,000 and 2,000 currencies. So let's talk about it. An example of a monetary currency asset portfolio, MCAP. So it's a monetary currency asset portfolio. I'm going to put it short as MCAP. It's a nice name. It deals with banking. It's a capital, monetary capital type of thing, but it's monetary currency asset portfolio. What that is a storeroom. Think about a physical storeroom. You can have digital storerooms. We're going to go all over the place in a minute, but let's just keep it simple for a minute. You got a storeroom full of assets: gold, silver, bonds, loans, stocks, anything that has value, commodities. Obviously, you're not going to want to put physical corn in there. The ownership of that corn, the ownership of the pork bellies, ownership of all these assets, the oils and the like. So that's going to be highly important that you have actual items of real value, or the certificate of ownership of that 100 pork bellies or 500 gallons of oil, or whatever the case may be, the barrels of oil. So those are actual assets in the storeroom. And again, it's not going to be one storeroom. It's going to be all over the place. Within 20 miles of almost anybody, there's going to be a storeroom of actual items that they can go exchange their currency in for. And when they exchange your currency in for it, the currency disappears because there's no assets. Every currency has to be backed up by the assets in the storeroom, in the MCAP. So currency is this is my definition of currency. So let's go over each word. Currency is a service. Service is highly important in this thing. It's a service of allowing people to trade back and forth. From free enterprises is invisible hand. So that brings in that historic invisible hand from Adam Smith. Keeping a ledger that facilitates one-sided provision, yet two-party trades at different times, at different values, and the services provided going to and from the universe of all traders in proportion to each person's provision. So most things are not double-sided agreement. I'll give you this corn if you give me that chicken. Most things I'll give you that corn for the currency. Then with that currency, you go get the chicken from somebody else. Then that person gets the car from somebody else. That person who sold the car gets the entertainment from somebody else. And that person getting entertainment gets the steak from somebody else. So you understand how it goes around. Currency facilitates that. It's an invisible hand type of thing because you're talking about paper and coin. Now we're going to go a lot digital. We're going to go anonymous on the digital as well, because U.S. currency started off anonymous, so government could not trace it. So because we're in a digital world, the anonymous needs to go with the digital, and that's within the Constitution. So it's one-sided provision on each time the service is done, because giving somebody the currency is not necessarily a service to them. You're going to get that service from somebody else by offering that money to them. So it's one-sided provision, but it's two-party trade, because both sides of that party, both sides of that, I'll give you $10 for that one chicken, that is a two-party trade. You have to agree to that. So it's highly important to understand that that's two-party trades. It can be done at different times. What I give and what I get back does not have to be the same value, because I can keep some of the currency. So that's highly valuable to know that it's different times. It's highly divisible. The dollars can be highly divisible. So if I think something's worth $10 for what I give into the system, but I buy something for $5, then another thing for $3, and another thing for $2, I can do that. And the services provided going to and from the universe of all traders. So the currency allows it to go to the universe of all traders, to the full overall economy. When I talk about economy right now, I'm talking about strictly dollars economy. There's economy is much more broad than just dollars, but dollar economy dealing with money trading hands. From the universe of all traders in proportion to each person's provision. So whatever you give into the system, and somebody else has to agree to it, only one other person has to agree to it, that accepting your money or giving you money, whatever you give into the system, your services given into the system, somebody else gives you the money, then you can use that money, exact amount, to offer to somebody else. That's how much provision you can get from somebody else, how much services you can get from somebody else. So that is what currency is. Okay, let's talk about a normal currency asset portfolio. I made up these numbers. It doesn't have to be like this exactly, but it's going to go over what might be in a currency. Gold, copper, silver, stocks, municipal bonds, corn, pork bellies, crude oil, natural gas, wheat, soybeans, live cattle, land appraised value, that you own land, you own real estate within the portfolio. Now, somebody else will be managing. There's contracts all over the place. You're buying contracts. You're buying contracts. You're buying contracts. Can't say that enough, but you're buying loan contracts. You're buying contracts to supply the soybean meal. You're buying contracts for how many bushels of wheat and how many barrels of oil. It's contract, contract, contract. Home mortgages, again, contract. Grade B means maybe not the best of risk, but you need to have that loan out there, a little bit higher interest rates or whatever. Credit card loan C, car loans grade A, which means there's not much risk in this loan. Business loan grades A. Grocery store, items on the grocery store shelves could be in the MCAP. I'll tell you how that's going to work. Or I might not be able to get to it all into this one, but you could have assets on the grocery store shelf that is officially in the MCAP, and you exchange your currency for that. You can exchange it and get that can of soup or whatever's in the grocery store. So that can be in the MCAP. I'll show you how that can be done. Or it might be in some of my blogs, but it can be done. Future tax revenue. We take all taxes, all debt, and we change it to future tax revenue assets. And we put it into an MCAP, and that MCAP's going to have worth, that asset's going to have worth, and you can create currency from that. And obviously there's going to be a natural market mechanism not to have that go too high. And I'll explain that, or it might be within some of my blogs if I don't get to it within this blog or this video. Roads, free market education, free market military, explain military, a lot of accountability, better accountability than we have right now. But it's going to be free market, military, again, major accountability can work. Look at my things on that. So you'll own military corporations, will own not just military suppliers where you can own, what is it, Raytheon and different military contractors out there. There's a lot of them out there. I'm not going to get into names right now. Anyway, police corporations, they're all free enterprise too, but there's going to be police corporations. They're going to be bringing in money, police contracts and the like. Look at those videos. Nature parks, obviously, they have worth. Foreign currencies, I got Argentina peso, British pound, China yuan, what is that, yuan? I can't pronounce it now, I forget. Yen, I believe it is. Pockets of freedom, if you don't know what that is, look at that video. Prison corporations, all free enterprise prison from here on out. But major accountability, don't get me wrong, major accountability. You go through a proper court system, free enterprise court system, so that's going to be sold off to the free enterprise system as well. A lot more accountability, a lot more due process, a lot more justice. It can be done better. Charity economies, a lot of value within that. We get rid of welfare altogether. So there's going to be value in the charity economy. There's going to be value in owning CRA assets. Percentage of products in stores. There's going to be a lot of ways to put products in stores as part of the MCAP. Most likely it's going to be 10, 15, 20, maybe getting up to as high as 50% sometimes. But we want to make sure the bulk of it is skin in the game. This is the more safe side of the bet products in the store. And they just don't have the capital to get it out there. And that's going to be able to do that. That's why we have competitive currencies. If people who do it badly, they take on too much of the risk and they lose. Only the people who own that currency lose. So buyer beware. You get the currency that you want. Okay, retirement accounts. Obviously, there's a lot involved in that. Insurance corporations, infrastructure corporations. Again, all roads are going to the free enterprise system, and that's going to be a lot of value within roads. Farms, thousands of other items. So there's going to be a lot of items in the portfolio. So this one particular CRA currency has $1.3 trillion worth of assets. And that means they can have $1.3 trillion worth of currency. Highly important to understand. It all has to be 100% backed up, and you can only have as much currency as you do assets in the bank. And they have to, I haven't told you that yet on this video, I don't think, that you have to price your average unit of currency with the BD. So all the currencies throughout the state, throughout the country, has to sink in value for the unit of currency. Constantly sinking, daily sinking. And when I say sinking, they make it the same. Now, why would they have to be made the same? Because, first of all, in the marketplace, we don't want currency A to say, hey, it's going to cost you 10 units, currency B, 11 units, currency C, 43 units. It's just too confusing. We want them all synced in line. That's why it's going to be digital, so you can take away units, increase units if you go up or down in the value compared to the average. Okay, if people turn in currency to take assets, a currency turned in is worthless and kept in the bank, well, they just vanish until more assets are added. Because it's digital, if it was physical currency, then they can keep it in the storeroom. Let's say the BD, the currency, the paper. If it's kept in the bank, there's no worth to those dollars until the worth is given to those dollars by saying, I will turn in my MCAP currency for those BD. Then that MCAP currency is brought to the federal sector board, facilitated by the banks, but brought to the federal sector board. That federal sector board owns it. That's the one that deals the BD. Then that brings worth to that paper and that coin. And then you get that $1,000 worth of paper and coin. But backing it up is that currency, MCAP currency, set aside for the BD. So that's 100% backed up as well. So, but if somebody turns in their currency for going to the asset and getting an asset out of the MCAP, then the currency goes away. It disappears. It's digital. And because the assets are gone. You didn't lose anything. You just exchanged your currency for the asset. So you lose the currency, but you have the asset. That's what ownership is. Okay. I just wanted to show you this screen one more time and show you how the competitive regulatory agencies is you select them, the banks select them. If you don't like how they're doing it, then you go to another CRA. You go to another MCAP. The rating system is going to always give you high quality information from a wide variety of perspectives. So you're going to get good information. You're going to know which ones are doing well, which ones are not doing well. Not just from a conservative perspective or liberal perspectives, but 12 different perspectives. Each rating agency is going to give their own perspective. You can listen to the liberals or the conservatives or the middle of the road, but you're going to have a lot of information. You can discard some or trust others, but you're going to get that good information. Okay, there's likely going to be over 100 states within my state, within my country, within the Constitution, because I allow states to split off, cities to become states a little bit easier. So you don't look at that. It's not part of this video too much. But I just wanted to tell you how it's done. So let's just go with 100 currencies, 100 MCAPs. So we have 100 examples of competition on currencies. Who's going to do best with their MCAP? Each MCAP decides its assets. Highly important. Within the clauses, I said it could be loans, precious metals, anything on the trading markets, bonds. It can be anything you want it to be. As long as it has agreed upon value, appraised value. We don't want finger paints from a kindergarten and list each one of those as $1,000. There's ways to take care of silly things like that. Or even, not skeptical, speculative value. If it's going too much, there's ways to stop things from being too speculative. So pricing things too high, that really doesn't have that value. There's ways to do it. So I just want to make sure I got it on my blogs, got it within my website. I talk about it in other videos. I just don't have time on this video to get way into into that right now. But you can sell short. You can have a rating floor. There's a lot of ways to do it. Hayek MCAP. Okay, I named some of my MCAPs by famous economist or famous Federal Reserve chairman. So Hayek obviously is a famous economist, and people who like him develop an MCAP. And let's say there's 500 ounces of gold at $2,000 per ounce. It's almost $2,000 now. Equals $1 million. Hayek can issue 1 million units of currency. So let's say all he wants in there is gold. Then the gold goes in there and he issues currency. And anybody can go in there and give over $2,000 of their 2,000 units of their currency and says, I'd like 1 ounce of gold, please. And then nobody else loses anything once $2,000 is taken out. That is, I believe, 990 units of currency left. Or, yeah, 990 units of currency left. And 499 ounces of gold. So everybody still owns their gold. They didn't lose anything. Obviously, the person who turned in their currency and took the ounce of gold, they don't have any more currency, but they got the gold. Okay, 1 million units of currency. If you hold 10,000 units of Hayek's, you own 1% of the full portfolio. So part of my clauses was that a unit of currency represents ownership of a percentage of the MCAP. And that's equal to all the assets divided by the number of units of currency. So in this one, it was easy because it was 1%. Yeah, maybe not. Well, because he owned 10,000 units, he owned 1%. because there was a million units of Hayek's out there. So he owned 1%. But each unit, it was 1/1,000,000th of the full portfolio. Now that was just easy numbers. If it was $1 billion dollars worth of assets and you had one unit of currency, then you own 1/1,000,000th of that, or 1/1000,000th of 1/1000,000th of the full MCAP. So you have the right to take that one unit and go get $1 worth of gold, which is what, 1/2000 2000ths of an ounce, however you say that. I'm sorry. You have the ownership rights to turn in your Hayeks for 5 ounces of gold. This guy does, if he has 10,000 units. Okay, let's go back, and if 10,000 units of Hayeks are exchanged for 5 ounces of gold, the currency disappears because the assets are no longer in the MCAP. I kind of talked about it, but put it right there on words there. The MCAP now holds 495 ounces of gold, thus worth $990,000. So I did do that math right. Thus can issue only 990,000 Hayeks. All the other owners of the Hayeks own a slightly larger share of the MCAP because the full value of the MCAP is reduced. So they own a little bit higher percentage because the full value of the MCAP is a little bit lower. But they still own the same stuff. What they own did not change because they owned a percentage of the thing. They still own a percentage. It's a higher percentage off of a little bit lower value. So, but they can get the same amount of gold out of it. The value of each Hayek remains the same, so it can still hold the get the currency. Okay, let's reset it back to 500 ounces of gold at $2,000 each equals 1 million. If the price of the gold falls 1% compared to the average of all currencies, the owner of the 10,000 units of Hayeks still own 1%. So if they lost a little bit of value, they still own 1%. Or still 5 ounces of gold. However, the value of the full MCAP is now only worth $990,000. I should have put dollars there. And can only issue 990 units of Hayeks. Hayeks is being the unit of currency. All holders of the Hayeks lose 1% of their Hayeks, but they don't lose what they own. What they own lost value and represents lower units of the BD or the units of Hayek. Now, so that means somebody else, one of the other MCAPs did better than the average, and they're going to gain that. Okay, let's reset again. Reset to 500 ounces at $2,000 per ounce equals 1 million. If the price of gold increases 1%, the owner still owns 1% of the MCAP. Still the 5 ounces of gold. However, the value of the MCAP is now $1,010,000 and can issue 1 million, only I wrote a little bit wrong, 1,010,000 units of Hayeks. All holders of the Hayek gain 1% more Hayeks. They don't gain what they own. What they own gain value, and that will reflect a little bit higher. So some days you might lose a little bit. Some days you might lose. Sometimes you might gain a little bit. But when you lose something, that means another MCAP did better because again, the BD is done on the average. Let's reset again on 500 ounces at $2,000 per ounce equals $1 million. Someone holding Hayeks bought a car for $10,000, 10,000 BD. And the person accepting the Hayeks deposited the Hayeks into their bank using the Mises MCAP. So Mises is another famous economist. And the people that agree with him created an MCAP, and they and the person selling the car, they deposit the money from the person who bought the car into their MCAP. So the MCAP, the Mises MCAP has ownership rights to 5 ounces of gold and asks for title transfer from the Hayek MCAP. So the Hayek MCAP is going to lose value, lose assets, and take it out of the account of the person who bought the car. The person who traded basically their 5 ounces of gold in for that car. So they don't own that Hayek currency anymore. They own the car. The person on the Mises side, they don't own the car anymore. They own 10,000 units of Mises account, five ounces of gold, 10,000 units of Mises currency. So they bought and sold. Nothing strange about that, but it just shows you that they had to transfer the title of some assets to the Hayek, from the Hayek MCAP to the Mises MCAP. The Mises MCAP adds 5 ounces of gold to its assets, thus allowing it to issue 10,000 more units of Mises. That extra Mises goes into the account of the person selling the car. The Hayek MCAP loses assets, thus can issue 10,000 less Hayeks, and that coming out of the account of the person buying the car. So I kind of went over there, but if you want to read it, I just did it twice, so it's good for you to understand. The Federal Sector Board will handle roughly 2,000 to 4,000 state MCAPs. I don't know how many it's going to be. I keep on using a little bit different numbers. Between 1 and 2,000 probably, maybe up to 3,000. Thus, we're going to have probably between 1 and 3,000 different distinct currencies. That's fine. The Federal Sector Board is going to be very mechanical, not use a lot of subjectivity. As long as they get above the rating floor, unreliable, and they do everything right to be a currency, that they have to be 100% backed up. There's certain requirements to be a currency. You have wide latitude how you do it, but there's certain requirements for integrity and a couple constitutional clauses, 100% backed up and the like. Anyway, as long as you are a legitimate certified currency, you get to go up to the Federal Sector Board, and anything, any of your currency going up is going to be sold off to other people, put into their banks. They're going to demand their money back, and the currency is going to come flowing back, and there's going to be some discrepancies on how much one is versus the other, because people are buying and selling, and assets are going to move from one MCAP to the other. A little hard to understand if this is the first time you're hearing it, but let's just keep on going. About 100 to 200 states and about 12 per state. Most MCAPs will have about 100 to 500,000 people. So let's just say there's 3,300 MCAPs. 3,300, which means there's 1 million per, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Let's just say that there's 3,000 MCAPs. 100 states. I did my math wrong. Let's say there's 200 states, about 10, 15 MCAPs per state, and there's 330 MCAPs. That still means there's 330 million people. I'm doing my math all wrong now. I'm so sorry. I had it written down. Let me just go by what I've written down, because I thought it out. About 100 to 200 states and about 12 per state. Most MCAPs will have about 100 to 500,000 people. So 100 to 500,000 people. Some will be over a million, but that is a lot of people for banking. You get all the economies of scale that you need to do really good banking. And the average person is likely going to generate over $200,000 worth of assets. Even a new couple coming up will have a house that they're buying. That house is a new asset. The loan that they get, the car loans, the business loans that they get, the credit card debt that they have might be. All that's going to be part of the MCAP. So they're going to be generating over a lot of assets within the system. Some people going up, some people going down, some more in debt, some more in investments into retirement accounts. It's going to be all over the place. But the banking system is going to work. MCAPs will likely hold 10 billion to 200 billion each. So I just want to give you a frame of reference of how many currencies. I say 2,000. Let's just go with 2,000. And then each state, that means it's going to be somewhere around the 100 to 500,000 per MCAP. And so there's going to be plenty of people per MCAP. and I looked on the internet, and there's somewhere between 50 and $100 trillion worth of personal wealth out there. And that might not even include a lot of the business wealth, net worth, and stuff. So there's going to be a lot of assets. And we're going to add more assets because when we talk about business wealth and personal wealth, we're not talking about roads. We're not talking about military bases. We're not talking about aircraft carriers. We're not talking about schools. All those things are government owned, and they usually don't go into personal net worth. But these are going to be personal net worth or corporate stocks, and that's going to bring a lot of worth. So we're going to have a lot of many trillions of dollars out there, probably topping $100 trillion easy. So I just want to give you a scale of what we're talking about. Okay, here's some names of some currencies. I just picked some names from some famous economists or Fed chairman. Hayek, Mises, Milton Friedman was bigger on monetary policy, so he should be in there. Thomas Sowell, Janet Yellen, Walter Williams, Volcker, Greenspan, Ben Bernanke, whatever Powell's first name is, I forget the current Fed chairman. And let's just say that the people who admire these people create a currency. So Hayek's currency has 120 billion, Mises' currency has 160 billion, and you see it all the way down, and end up with $1 trillion. So the Federal Sector Board will handle roughly 2,000 MCAPs. This is an example of one state because obviously I can't put 2,000 listings up here. It's just gets too messy. So let's say this is one state, 10 of them. And when they have to give up, when I just say average of all the MCAPs, these are 10 MCAPs. Not everybody gets 10% of the backing up the MCAP. Backing up the back dollar. Each one gives proportion to their total assets. So Hayek has 12%. So he's going to give that MCAP's going to give 12% towards backing up the back dollar. Sowell has 13%, 130 billion. So they're going to give 13%. Bernanke has 50 billion, so that's 5%. He's going to give 5% of backing up the back dollar. So that's how that works. The federal level sector board, financial banking, CRA sector board, I know it's a lot of words there, but the sector board at the federal level must create the paper and coin currency, fully backed up proportionally with state level CRA currency named the back dollar. The proportionally is very important there. And again, we need to make sure we use correct language. So if there's 10 currencies, not everybody's giving 10%. They're given the exact percentage compared to the proportionality of their currency. So if you're, like I said before, so maybe it's on this one. Let me go back. Anyway, I don't have it right there. Just what I said a minute ago with the 13%, you give 13% of the back dollar. So that is what we're talking about. And let's say there's only 10% of the currency wants to be paper and coin. Then everybody gives over 10% of their MCAP to the BD to back up their currency. Paper and coin must be the BD proportionally. To make the numbers easier, let's look at this one state. So this is not clause, it's me talking, and I didn't write it very well there. Okay, so I have that okay. If a person wants paper coin, they take their MCAP currency to the Federal Sector Board. Now, the banks are going to facilitate it, but I'm just going to use the words take it to, even though the banks facilitate it, just so we know where things are going. So if a person wants paper and coin, wants to take their MCAP currency, they want the paper and coin, they want the BD, they want the average, they want $1,000 out. They take their MCAP currency, they take $1,000 worth of it, it says turn it in for paper and coin. Now that MCAP currency has to stay at the BD because it has to be backed up. Now the BD is official owner of that part of that MCAP now. They have ownership rights. And if somebody turns in, if the person using that currency goes out there and shops, eventually that has to go back to the BD. if you don't understand what I'm trying to say, I'm sorry. I'm going all over the board. You just have to think about it enough. But the BD is going to be shopped around the market. And if somebody actually wants to turn it back in, that means that BD loses its value once it gets its assets. Then the assets have to go back to the MCAP. And it's all mechanical, it's all math at that point of where it goes. Okay. The BD must be fully backed up by the MCAP currencies. That's why when money is turned in for assets, the assets come out, the currency has to disappear because whether it's BD or the MCAP currency, it has to disappear because the assets are taken away. They actually take the corn, the oil, they take it, and it's not in the MCAP's model anymore. It's not in the currency. You're allowed to own a Amazon stock right now off by itself, and it's not in the currency. This allows it to be in the currency. This whole system allows it to be in the currency, but now the MCAP owns it, and you have ownership rights to that MCAP now. So you can be inside or outside. So adding more currency means adding more assets. You're not devaluing the assets. You're not devaluing currency because you're adding assets in. If you take it out, the assets are lower, but also the units of currency is lower. Okay, so the banks will facilitate the trade, but I just want to make sure you realize you're taking your MCAP currency to the Federal Sector Board, and the Federal Sector Board is giving you BDs, and that's backed up by what you gave them the MCAP currency. It is likely that MCAP currencies will be naturally equally represented. However, the constitutional clause requiring exact proportionality. So let's just go over that example. So we went over that example before. The Hayek MCAP will supply 12% of the currency to back up the back dollar, and the Powell currency will supply 7% of the currency to back up the BD. So you just go by what your percentage of all currencies is. Okay, so this is the screen I was looking for a minute ago. So if 10% of the currency is in the BD, and you held 12%, you give over 12%. So it was $120 billion for the Hayek currency, and they had to give over $12 billion worth of currency to the MCAP because people wanted to hold the MCAP versus the digital MCAP currency. Held by the Federal Sector Board to back up the BD, so it just shows you who gives what to back up. Now, the assets are still in the MCAP, but the ownership is in the BD at that point in time, the 10% at least. So, and they can go over and get assets at any time. If the Hayek MCAP is overrepresented and the Greenspan MCAP is underrepresented, when you talk about proportional ownership of the assets in the BD to back up the BD, then the Federal Reserve must turn over some Greenspan currency to the Hayek MCAP in exchange for Hayek currency. The Hayek MCAP exchanges it for Greenspan assets. So read over it, think about exactly how it's said, what I said, and how that would work. But you'll see that the Greenspan assets are going down, and the Hayek assets are going up. Actually, I did that backwards. Anyway, look it over and look at exactly what I wrote and think about it exactly how it should go there. The BD will be the standard pricing in America. It is always the average of all currencies. It is always fully backed up. It is unlikely that many currencies will vary much because just the natural market forces will force badly run MCAPs, which means taking on bad assets. You don't want to have a loan, $1 million loan from somebody on minimum wage without, because that's not a good loan. You're going to lose value on that. Consumers will force good MCAP management. So if an MCAP continually loses on the short end of the value every day, It's losing value every day. Losing units. People are going to bail out of that one and go to a better run MCAP. So the consumers and free market will force a good management. Bad management will go out of business, and just because people won't use them, they won't have any assets. There cannot be a bank run. Sure, people can take all the assets out of a bank, but as the money's going out, as the assets are going out, the currencies are disappearing. So what you own, it doesn't get reduced. You own a higher percentage of a lower MCAP, lower value MCAP. Sure, all the people can turn in their yellen currency if they are managed badly. However, as money is turned in, assets are either taken by the people or taken by other MCAPs. As people trade in the yellen for the Williams, if a MCAP falls under 5% of the state, they must dissolve and sell off all of its assets to other MCAPs. So there'll be a system when a MCAP falls below a certain level, the 5% level, that they have to dissolve, and those banks will naturally go to, they have to go to a legitimate CRA. And if your MCAP falls below 5%, you're not a legitimate CRA anymore. So you have to be regulated. And they take their assets with them and put them into another MCAP. And the last asset should be taken by the last unit of currency. All banks and all MCAPs will be able to be turned into currencies to the Federal Reserve Board. Federal Sector Board. I'm sorry, I'm using common language now. Federal Reserve Board. Okay. To the Federal Sector Board as a clearinghouse for all currencies. They would filter an MCAP's currency back to them. Now, obviously, it's going to be very mechanical. It's going to go up to the federals. It's going to probably cost well over $1 billion a year to manage this, but that's worth it. It's not a high percentage of our money to deal with all this financial interaction. So no doubt it's going to be a high-level organization, but it's going to be very mechanical without a lot of subjectivity. And as all the people turn in all the currencies that's not their own, when people do all the shopping, they're going to be able to put all the currencies up there, trade it for their currencies that were sold, and then you're going to have some light or some heavy. Some have currencies still outstanding, and some people have over amount of currency. All the MCAPs will either be light or heavy, and they will have to give up assets or gain assets. That's what I mean. Just like I was talking about when somebody bought the $10,000 car, one of the MCAPs had to give up assets to the person, to the seller, because they gave over an asset of a car. And so all that works out. The price of each asset in each MCAP will adjust daily. So these are constantly going to happen. Amazon stocks are going to go up and down. PepsiCo stock or Exxon stocks go up and down. The price of gold and silver is going to go up and down as the daily trading markets happen. Now, maybe not daily, but the appraised value of real estate and appraised value of fine art and appraised value of certain things is going to go up and down over the course of a month or two, and they'll be readjusted. MCAPs will be either above or below the average. So the price of each asset in each MCAP will adjust daily. The MCAPs will be either above or below the average. If below, the MCAP loses units. If above, the MCAP gains units. Each MCAP is in constant flux. So we have to understand daily, hourly, by the minute, it's in constant flux. Assets are entering and exiting. The assets changing in value on the trading markets. In MCAPs, customers buying and selling. So when you buy and sell, even simple paychecks, it's going from the company MCAP to the employee's bank that's going to use a different MCAP. And so the company assets are going to be transferred to the employee's whatever bank they're using, their MCAP. So it's going to be in constant flux. MCAP's customer buying and selling with people using other MCAPs. Creating new currency with new assets or dissolving currency by taking it out of the MCAP. Okay, look at all my blogs on my website dealing with this. A new house is going to be capital for a new currency. So you don't have to raise money for a new house. The house is going to be a capital asset all in itself. And as long as you have a good builder with a good reputation and you only do, let's say, 80% of the value, the MCAP is going to feel comfortable lending you that money, quote unquote, lending you money as that asset appreciates in value. The house, every month as it's being built, gains more value and more value. The land has value. Once you buy the wood, you have more value. Once you start building, it has more value. Once you put your windows and their carpeting in, you add more value. Once you put all your kitchen stuff in, it adds value. Once you paint it, get it inspected, get it approved, and then finally, when that person puts their money on the line to buy that house, it justifies all that value in that house. And that value of that house is an asset in the MCAP. And as long as you have a good business model and you have trust, the MCAP can take and rely on that good business model, that good trust, that good experience, and putting checks and balances into the mix can use, it's probably going to be 80% going to be able to put new assets to buy that house, new currency to buy that house. So you're not going to have to raise it from people saving money, because what you're doing is building a good capital asset. Maybe not capital in the sense of it's going to create money for you, but it's going to be a permanent asset, a long-term durable asset. And if you do a business the same way, let's say you have a business plan, it's a really good business plan from somebody who really knows what they're doing, they can say to the MCAP, look, give me $1 million. This thing's going to be worth 1.5 when I'm done. I'm going to build a factory. I'm going to build equipment. I'm going to put equipment in there. I have a sales force already in line. I have all this stuff and have the experience and the track record that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do, and I have the experience. They might put that $1 million of worth of assets. But if that falls apart, that currency loses that money. That currency loses that money. And the people who own that currency, they don't lose what they have, but what they have, they realize is not worth anything anymore, or not as much. Maybe they can sell off all the parts to that broken down business for $500,000 and lose $500,000. Anyway, new currency for increased human capital. We go to a full free enterprise system for education, so you can do human capital loans and give a portion of a share loan type of thing, a portion of your income for a certain number of years in exchange for the education. An example of a monetary currency, and that's free enterprise, K through 12 and college and the whole 9 yards. 100% of all education. An example of monetary currency asset portfolio, I kind of gave it, maybe I didn't give it on this one. Anyway, from the gold, for the silver, everything, I say what could be in the MCAP, and I give a lot of examples, and it's not limited to my thought pattern. There's wide latitude on what an MCAP can do, as long as they're stay above rating level, rating floor. The basic workings of a currency portfolio, look at that blog. Arbitrage opportunities will keep a currency portfolio prices honest. Does somebody have to save before somebody else can borrow? I just talked about that with a house and the business loans and stuff. So it's a yes and a no, but you have to understand why yes, why no. There's a nice blog for that. Turning food into currency. We talk about how it goes from the farm all the way to the shelf, and how that final price is justified, and how that final price brings justification for all the different labor hours included in building food. But you can build currency as the asset grows in value. And that's done by reliability, repetition, experience good progress over the years. Government debt built into the monetary system. We talk about how that can be done. Um, Fractional reserve banking is not a relevant term under Haley 2024's monetary policy. It doesn't equate. Almost all of it's kind of fractional reserve in itself, kinda, but it's done by real assets. Bank runs are not possible under Haley 2024 monetary policy. Not that particular type of bank runs that people normally think about in the 1920s, 1930s. That kind of bank run is not really possible, but you can obviously empty out one of the MCAPs easily by doing a bank run in that way. But that's not the bad type of bank runs. You cannot run out of money because you're not going to run out of assets unless once you run out of assets, that last unit of currency takes the last asset. There's a lot of other assets out there. Okay, pretty much done with this video. I didn't really mean to go full 50 minutes on this video, but I really wanted to give an explanation of what an MCAP is, how it works, and just the examples of it. I know I did this before. I wanted to break it down into 2 different sections and just go over it again. Hearing it a second time might be able to help you. I probably said it a little bit differently this time than I did last time. It's all very consistent. Read what I had to say to understand it fully, and all the blogs to help you. So I'm just going to go through these last screens here. Okay, please consider a donation for Haley 2024 the movement. It's a really good it's a good government reform website, and I'm trying to do a lot of videos, trying to get somebody to do some social media for me, edit, do some admin for me, and just help me out with this. And it takes a little bit of money. So until the next video.